for whether it's lissencephalic or gyrencephalic mammals, it's just far lower than in farming practices.
Oh, if it's just mammals, I agree with your analysis completely.
Well, the reason we're talking about mammals is because we care about sentience, and the best proxy for sentience would be mammalian concentrations. But there are mammals. This includes mammals that do our selection practices as well.
Okay, well, if we get into a discussion about the way I would state it is consciousness, right, being seen as the morally relevant characteristic, and then we could have a discussion about philosophy of mind and what our best theory of subjective experience will lead us to believe is conscious and not conscious. In my view, I mean, I'm sympathetic to integrated information theory. I don't know if you've heard of that, but
what's the relevance?
Well, it would predict that non-mammalian animals were conscious.
No, I'm not arguing that they aren't.
Right. So my point
I'm talking about the degree of it's a degree.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. So if you're
sentient, I would be interested in things like sentience correlates, but because they're sentience correlates, no matter how you do it, whether it's like neuron counts, cortical or pallidum neuron count, or whether it's like synapse count, no matter how you try to make a correlate to it, I'm not even sure how worthwhile it would be to. Nor would it really change, because it actually would be worse if you included non-mammalian, because you'd have to include it like if you're going to include non-mammalian species, you're going to have to include things non-mammalian species on the other side, like chickens, stock at much higher densities than you never find in avian species in the wild. It's just going to make the calculation worse for the non-vegan.
The good news about IIT is that it gives us a good the entire point is it gives us a quantification of degree of consciousness, and so amount of.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So I mean, if you've seen this view, it's a pretty popular one. It's the measure is called phi. So it's the amount of integrated information in a system. And
wait, do you per animal? Like you have like a list of animals with like some metric for consciousness?
Oh no, nothing has been constructed that's that precise as far as I'm aware.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Like
no, I understand, but so we can basically we can make guesses, but we're not going to have anything particularly precise. But the whole point would be that even though the much less sophisticated animals are much less conscious, right? The sheer number could start to make up for that on scale, given the sheer number of offspring that are being produced per second.
Yeah, so again, we have the same problem, right? So that's not being addressed. So if you're going to argue for including non-mammalian species into that, you're going to have to include non-mammalian species into the other side of the equation, right? So we farm non-mammalian species. You agree? Hello?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we farm non-mammalian species.
I'm perfectly willing to allow.
Wait, what?
I'm perfectly willing to allow the evaluation of non-mammalian species that are farmed.
Yeah, but so here's the problem here. So the problem is, like, when we do the comparison with the mammalian species, it's pretty clear that even with the niche replacement, it's not going to it's going to be really, really bad for the non-vegan. Now, if you're going to say, well, if you accounted for non-mammals on both sides, it'll be different. You seem to form that belief without actually presenting any data or any calculation. You just seem to like grandstand it.
I think that's an incredibly uncharitable way to interpret what I've done.
Wait, then do you have a calculation?
Look at the Debate Crucible 1 chat. I mean, I've presented,
Wait, you presented the calculation?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see.
Just for ease and access, just post it in general as well. We don't need them to be in DC1. Most people are reading general.
What is the calculation? I'm looking at the paper. I don't see any numbers. I don't see actually. Is there any number?
Yes. I mean, if
where?
The one that says 600 trillion.
Hold on.
60 trillion, sorry, and 600 billion, all those numbers.
There, I reposted this stuff.
All right, hold on. Where are you posting it, Bryn?
General.
Okay, what am I looking at? Okay, restricting out the wild.
It says 600 billion. It's right there in the million. It's right there in the lower
60
middle.
trillion is the one that I corrected myself to.
Oh, this is Brian Tomasic. Yeah, Brian Tomasic.
Yeah.
I can totally there are 60 billion.
I also see the 60 trillion to the right of that.
Birds okay, but what? But again, these aren't the figures. I mean, we're not interested in how many there are, right? We're interested in the differential in their replacement versus what you're creating by while you're replacing them, right? I don't give a shit about how many birds there are or how many land animals there are. Like that's not the relevant metric. They're like, is this like a joke or like what?
Okay, so I guess I can walk through this again. Okay, so the point is that if we demonstrate that there's a greater animal density in the wild animal biome, then then we do need a more. There is a piece of data that's missing from the segment of the article that I've sent here that's formatted with the highlighting that we would need, in order to come to a conclusion one way or the other, and that is the amount of biome degradation caused by the marginal increase in meat consumption, right? And so then we would say the number fewer of factory farmed animals procured per dollar spent on beef, for instance, versus the amount of biome degradation, right? So that's the comparison that you're looking for, right?
Yeah. Just so we're clear on what the comparison I'm looking for is, I'm looking for, look, if you replace a given area of wildlife with a given area of farming practice, what I'm looking for is the total amount of animals that would not come into existence, or that would be replaced on the wildlife side, and the total amount of animals multiplied by their sentience correlate on both sides that would come into existence and would have that treatment. So that's what I'm looking for, and I don't see anything in this data that gets me to that at all. We can do that just by population. I'm okay. I'm even okay doing it by, if they're not the same, if they're very different in sentience correlate, I'm just okay. If they're very similar in sentience correlates, I'm okay doing it just by population density, which is not provided in this, by the way. I see population density being mentioned, but it doesn't give me a unit of density. It gives me the total numbers. Yeah. So I don't like presenting this like I don't even know what you think this is showing at all.
Well, I think you clearly know what it's attempting to show, and you've just pointed out that it's inadequate.
I think you know what I do know what you're trying to show, but like
right.
it's like dumbfounding why you would present this to try to show that.
Okay, well then, I mean, you should lower your criteria for dumbfounding. I mean, the context is I do not, okay, and I've made this clear from the start. I do not actually have the data to put together the complete, syllogism, right? I don't have a quantification of the number of animals that are, or the amount of biome degradation that occurs as a result of the marginal piece of meat consumed. So I don't have that figure even remotely. This person has apparently, according to them, it's not included in the excerpted section, but according to them, in the excerpted section, between the wild biome density versus the factory farmed density. So in establishing that differential in density.
Wait, you're talking about Brian Tomasic?
I'm talking about this article, this Sitter article.
Who is this from?
Thomas Sitter.
Tomasic?
No, they're citing Tomasic.
Okay. And do you know how he gets to that calculation?
So apparently it's through looking at the absolute. So the density that we're looking at right here, right? That density is just for animals with similar sentience correlates to the ones that we're going to talk about for like reducing beef consumption or chicken consumption, right? So
just mammals then, or like, yeah, I mean, really, you're looking
mammals,
at
fish,
well,
avian species, but
oh no. The sentience correlates of like avian species to like if you're talking about like farming pigs and cows, they're going to be way different.
no, we're talking in the same ballpark, so we're talking within order.
They're going to be not even in the close to being in the same ballpark.
I mean, you're just wrong. But
I'm not. You can look at any sentience.
I know. They have far less. Okay, but they're within the same ballpark relative to the other creatures that I'm saying we're excluding that might be relevant to the argument later on.
Well, I mean, either way, you're going to have to adjust for the sentience differential.
Absolutely. But all I was saying was that these are all the ones that are within the ballpark of the level of complexity. So
okay, so what's the calculation and how is it being calculated?
Okay, so I'm saying they're falling from apparently they're looking at the absolute numbers, then they're looking at the size of the land mass of the biome, and then they're creating a density calculation from that. But I don't actually, again, I do not have the data from start to finish. I was just floating this, right? It doesn't motivate my non-veganism. I just came up with it, like 30 minutes ago after encountering this article, right? So
okay. Well, I mean, what I can say when I've looked through doing this in any calculation that's been done that's actually been published in peer-reviewed literature, the data has not come out that way. And now I've done it with mammals, but if I included what's it called? If I included non-mammals that we farm, it's just going to be like the density we're talking about when we farm birds is insane. We can do that, but like you'd really have to be agnostic, and like I don't see how you would lean not the other way, because I mean any peer-reviewed publication so far has leaned the other way. Now you can say like, oh well, there are limitations. They may have done different. They didn't account for this species, that species, but like thus far, I've seen the published data go the other way. Now, if this person thinks they calculated something, and wrote some blog or something, we have to look at it.
Okay, well, I mean, so this was published, so
which journal?
It's peer reviewed. It's in a philosophy journal, right? But
well, no. I've looked at that paper. That paper doesn't show anything.
Oh, okay. So what? They're the ones that are making the implicit
vegetarian and suffering of animals, suffering of wild animals.
Right.
Is that the paper you're talking? Yeah, that doesn't show us. That doesn't calculate a single thing.
Okay. Well, again,
that's completely uninteresting to me. Like that doesn't make the point at all. So that's not. No, I'm talking about the actual calculation. Now, if you're saying that the actual empirical data is published, which it's not.
Well, okay. So let's see the peer-reviewed literature that you've seen on this question.
Yeah, sure. Give me a second. I posted this in my server, actually. I have to dig it up. Give me one moment. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Here we go. So this is, one moment. All right, so I'm posting this in general. Yeah, and so you can see it in the regression for unmodified regions that are not human modified. The population density of mammalians are approximately 1 individual per kilometer squared, which is far lower than even the low density grazing cattle.
well, so there's reasons to expect that to be a poor measure of density for our purposes. So we could
Why?
take what I was about to say. So we could take the average of all areas that are non-human modified and the average of all areas that are human modified. But we might have reason to expect that the biological degradation that's caused by the consumption of animal products, either through increased CO2 emissions, either through increased deforestation, or through release of various chemicals into the environment, so runoffs. We expect those to afflict particularly highly dense areas as opposed to the average area.
Yeah, it wouldn't even matter. I mean, we can just take the higher end of it too. I mean, it wouldn't, like, we can go to the 50, we can go to like throughout the overwhelming majority of the spectrum, it's going to be higher stocking in farms and growing. Like, it doesn't even, we don't even have to go to the human footprint index of 0.
So even if we so one, again, we're restricting our analysis to mammalian species for this, right?
Well, you already discussed that. Yes, that's true.
Okay.
So
So
you're not
then,
interacting with the point I mentioned. So you tried to like say something like, "Oh, well,
no.
like,
Come on.
like, yeah,
Can
as
we
if
just
you could
have a
like
good
say,
faith
like, oh,
conversation?
wait,
I was just clarifying. I was saying first before, just was point out that this caveat that we had put in place earlier is still in effect, right? That was all I was saying,
Yep, as we mentioned earlier, sure.
right? So then the second component would be, okay, so what's the marginal effect of the consumption of a piece of beef going to be on the beef population? Probably on the order of
Look, if you want to say that it's not going to make much of a difference by consuming an extra piece of beef, then it's not going to make much of an extra difference in replacing whatever niche you're trying to replace either. That cuts both ways.
Like, come on, can I just finish the statement?
What's your point? Go ahead.
The point I was going to make was, okay, so what can we expect the marginal difference to be? And then we just compare that to the effect of the pollution in terms of the destruction of animal populations, okay? So wild animal populations. So then we might have reasons to expect that, if we consumed 1 cow's worth of beef, right, and that would result in the death of 1 more cow, we might have reason to expect that there to be some multiplier effect in terms of the number of amount of biodiversity destroyed. Sorry, I was tripping up on words.
Well, sorry, it's just one thing. When you consume 1 cow, it's not just the cow you're consuming. There are the animals that are killed to make room for that cow. It's not just like the production process of killing a cow. It's not just you're killing a cow. But anyway, I'm not really sure what you're talking about at this point. Like, what is it you think you're trying to say?
Okay, well, so I would actually be interested in the point you just made, which is how many cows are you killing with the consumption of 1 cow's worth of beef, right?
What's the question?
The question is, how many cows do you think you're, or how many animals do you think you're like financing the death of?
So I'm not. So you would kill 1 cow plus any other animals that would be killed in virtue of like farming that cow, and I don't know that answer, and there's a large variance to that. But it's definitely not just limited to 1 cow. So we can there's going to be some uncertainty on both sides of the equation, but I go with the best estimates I have for what I know. But I'm just not clear on what point you think you're making. Like, look, with the mammals, it seems very clear that across the range, like the population density that we're bringing them into the world is going to be much higher than what we're replacing, based on the peer-reviewed literature. So what point do you think you're making?
You can keep saying that. I mean, the paper didn't get to the conclusion you wanted, but
no. What are you talking about?
But let's circle back. Okay, so I actually had a question, and it was just a clarification.
Wait. We can do this. This is basic math. Wait, hold on. You realize the fact that the paper doesn't write the conclusion, like it doesn't. It's irrelevant to whether my conclusion follows from the data of the paper, right?
No, so my point was.
Wait, I want a yes or no answer to that. So do you realize that whether?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool. So
my statement was misinterpreted. So maybe I could.
So I just want to know if you agree. Do you agree that based on the population estimates, based on the population data density estimates of mammals in this paper, it's far lower than our stocking densities. You agree with that or no?
No, I agree with that.
Okay. So what's the issue?
The point I was making was that you were making a statement about the conclusion of the peer-reviewed literature that went beyond that point, right? So
what was the
maybe there is
conclusion
other
of
literature
peer-reviewed
you're
literature?
familiar with, but I was just saying that there were a variety of other empirical claims that you were lumping in with, what you had shown.
Oh no, so just to be clear, so to be clear on what I'm saying, like if we are, because I don't know how else you're doing it, because everything you based on, everything you put together was based on population densities. So I don't know how else you think you're going to be doing this, but if you're going by population density of mammals based on the peer-reviewed literature, it seems like you're going to have a higher population density in stocking rates than you're going to have in nature, by far. Now, if you think the scenario is going to be different, when you include non-mammalian species on both sides, please show me the data and how you think that calculation is going to pan out.
Okay, so the thing I wanted to clarify from earlier, and I do want to circle back to that first because I would be interested to hear what you were saying. But what is like the mechanism by which when you consume when you create demand for the killing of one cow, right? What is the mechanism by which the other animals are killed?
Yeah, there's a number of mechanisms by which the other ones are killed. So one mechanism is that, well, quite literally, there's farming that needs to be done to feed those cattle. There's area that needs to be cleared out, and so those animals are killed.
No, so can I jump in real quick right there?
Sure.
So that is actually, on my view, or not on my view, if I were to accept the tentative hypothesis I'm floating, right, that would be a benefit of factory farming rather than a drawback.
Okay. Yeah. So
killing off those animals, those are the animals we're saying it's good to get rid of.
Well, those are the animals we're saying that. I don't know if we're saying it's good to kill them. It's good to replace them. There are ways of replacing, like for example, you can take over niches without without killing the beings, and they will naturally breed less off. I'm not saying, on my view, I don't think it would be okay to just go in with a machine gun and start killing them, or setting fire to them, burning down new areas to make room for cropland. That wouldn't be okay on my view.
Okay, well, so the conclusion of this argument might be that would be more desirable than the alternative of allowing those.
Well, then I'll just go back and ask for the data, because I'm not sure. It seems like on the mammalian, if you restrict it to mammalians, it seems pretty obvious that argument's not going to go through. Now, if you think it is going to go through, if you include non-mammalians on both sides for the animals we farm, what's the data?
Okay, so again, the data is lacking, right? From my point of view, maybe the data exists, right? But my access or my knowledge of the data is lacking, and I've been pretty upfront about that. But the point
Can you link me what data you think you have, or you think gets to this conclusion? Because I mean, so far with mammals, we've looked and it doesn't. And is this just speculation on your part, or?
Okay, so we looked at the mammalian species, and we said that the density of the mammals that are being farmed on the factory farms is going to be higher than the density in the ecosystems that are likely to be affected, right? That's what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't think I've disputed that, and I don't think I would dispute that. I think that's probably right. Right. I do think that if we start to look at the non-mammalian species, so then the conclusion might start to shift. Or if we considered the
why do you think that?
The particular.
Why do you think that?
Why do I think that? Well, because I think that there are lots and lots and lots of non-mammalian species packed into some of these biomes.
There's lots and lots of non-mammalian. There's lots and lots of non-mammalian species packed even more densely into chicken coops, which are I don't know how you can pack chickens into a greater density. Like they're literally just brushed up against each other, like they're packed in like sardines.
What? Wait. So is the point just that there's a bunch of is your point just that there's a high density of chickens in a chicken coop? Was that the point? Sorry, I might have misunderstood.
The point is you're bringing some speculation about there being a large number of non-mammalian species on one side, and I'm telling you that there's a large number of non-mammalian species on another side that seem even packed even more densely than the non-mammalian species on the other side.
Oh well, I mean, I think that so given that we would have per unit density of chickens, right? We would have one chicken in the coop, right?
What?
Like let's just say, let's say we have, and I'm just saying this as like our unit of measure from now on. Let's just say one chicken of density, right? So
chicken is not a density; it's chicken per unit area.
Sure. Sorry. So the point would just be, chicken per unit area, right? We have one chicken, and so then in the same space that one chicken occupies, right? It could be the case that that amount of space, the amount of space that's destroyed is significant. Okay. I don't believe these empirical claims. So you just weren't paying attention to the conversation.
You clearly had a leaning.
I don't have a leaning on this view.
So you're completely agnostic then, is that right?
I started in the general chat. I was involuntarily dragged here, and I said this is something that I had looked at this paper that thought might be interesting. But
I really wish I should have been playing recording to hear the thing, so I can play back to you the things you were saying. If you're going to say you didn't have a belief on this, you literally said, "I believe."
Seth, can you attest that I've been saying this the whole time?
Even if that, I can attest that you've been saying that, but even so, the nature of the server is one of a debate server.
No, I'm not.
So
I'm not.
That's not the problem. The problem is he's been saying on the one hand, he says half of this out of his mouth,
Sure.
yeah, the evidence is weak, and I don't really
Yes.
know. But then he's like, well, actually, if you did this, I have I believe that it's going to show this. He'll say that in the out of the same cheek, he'll say the other thing, and it's like, well, wait a minute.
It's kind of back and forth like that, yes.
So what I'm saying is there's a certain extent to which I'm just toying with this purely as just for the sake of conversation, right? And so I'm saying for the sake of conversation, here's what I could say for this view to compete against what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
but I'm not claiming to
why, and we would ask what the support is for that view.
And then I try to supply it, right? But then you would say,
yeah,
oh, you believe
haven't.
That.
Yeah,
right?
And you try to supply the support, and so far you haven't.
Okay, so I again, my point is that I just wanted to clarify, I don't believe this, right? I'm just trying to defend it for sake of argument, right?
Okay, so just to be clear, you're purely agnostic on this.
Right. I might even
intuitively. So just to be clear, so wait. Before, I don't want just a direct answer. You are completely agnostic on this.
What I'm saying is I lean your way.
Well, why do you lean my way if you don't have data?
What my just as pure intuition, right?
Why?
So it's a very weak lean. But my intuition is that it's going to be, if you want to reduce animal suffering, it's going to be more efficient to reduce factory farming than to reduce consumption of factory farmed animals than to increase consumption of them. That's just my pure intuition. So I don't have a lot of empirical data. But I could continue to defend try to defend the position.
I don't know why. I don't know what. I don't know what you think would be productive about you trying to defend a view that you have no data to defend it with, whether that's an empirical claim.
I'm not saying I have no data, right? I have some data that seems to suggest the conclusion.
We took a look at what you've sent so far, and it turned out to not support the conclusion at all. And so if you think there's other data
to support the conclusion at all is not true.
Well, no, it is true. So far,
it did provide support for a premise that would determine the conclusion.
Well, yeah, that's what it means to not support the conclusion.
What do you mean? It provided support.
Well, if an argument, so if an argument has an unsupported premise, then the argument doesn't go through.
What the point was simply that to say that the data provides no support for the conclusion
Yeah.
is not true.
What's the support?
If it
What is the
increases the
support for the
possibility of a
conclusion?
premise that would feature into a deductive argument to that conclusion.
What's the support for the conclusion that the population density is greater on one end than the other when you include all species?
Okay.
What's the support for that conclusion?
The support would be the claim made in the Sitter article.
Okay, that's a claim. I'm looking for evidence.
Okay, so the claim in the Sitter evidence is the Sitter article, sorry, is that the density is higher, taking into account non-mammalian.
Okay, I understand. So that's repeating the claim, right?
And
So
the
I asked
person
you.
cites
So what I asked was, what's the support for that claim?
the support for the claim
you've
is citing the
repeated
Thomas
the claim. Yeah, you've repeated the claim.
No, that's the evidence.
Support for it. No,
The evidence
okay.
is
repeating the claim is not evidence for the claim, right? So what we're looking for is the evidence for the claim itself. Now, you saying that this is being claimed in an article, that's just saying that an article has repeated the same claim. That's not interesting. We want to know the support for that claim.
Okay, so I think that this was a pretty reasonable claim to make. My claim was that the article provides support for a premise. Then I said, can I, so then the article goes on to cite the data from Thomasek, and I take that citing the data and then reaching the conclusion.
What data do you think is being cited? I looked at the data that it said was being cited. It just gives you total numbers. It doesn't give you a population density. What? Show me the data that you think is.
Okay, let me pull up the article and find the section. Okay.
And just to be clear about what data we're going to find, okay, before you come back and try to spit out data at me, we're going to find data that gets to the conclusion that the stocking density that of our farming practices are going to be outweighed by the density of animals in nature for the same for the same area of land, same individuals. One will outweigh the other. Like that's what we're gonna get, right?
Well, so the what we would need is just that the reduction. We could expect the anticipated reduction of consuming like an animal product would be greater than in terms of the absolute number of animals would be greater than the absolute number of animals spared. That's really what we need, right? To get to the conclusion.
Yeah. The way we're inferring that is by population density. I don't know how else you.
And maybe so
population. That's what the data we're going to get. Is that right, or is there something else than that?
It seems like that we could get to support for the claim without even having to appeal to the relative density of the factory farm.
Then how in the world do you think you're going to get there?
Okay, the point would just be that the amount of biome that's destroyed as a result of reducing the killing of one factory farmed animal is far greater.
Wait, the amount of biome that's destroyed as a result of farming an animal is greater than what?
Is greater. It results in the deaths of more animals, or the the inhabitability the inhabitability of a certain amount of land for more animals than for the
more death of animals than the death of the farmed animals. Is that
right?
Correct? Okay, yeah, that's restating the claim. So what's the evidence for that?
Okay, so the article, right, appeals to the fact that
what? You realize like how many times are you going to go back to the article appeals to the restatement of the claim? Like, okay, I just want to know what the evidence in the article is for that claim.
There's a lot of biome that's required to be destroyed to facilitate one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's what I've been saying is that there's a citation in there for that claim, right?
Okay.
And so I'm saying I do not, and I keep saying this, and I'm getting tired of repeating it. I do not have that data available. I'm saying the article provides support by citing that data, right? I don't have the data available.
Okay.
I can go look now,
So
right?
just to be clear, we don't know. We have no support for that claim.
What do you mean we have no support?
We know of no support for that claim. You think you have an article that might support that claim, but you have no clue what that support is.
Oh, well, what the support is for which claim?
Mm-hmm. The claim that you've been trying to support the whole time, that there would be more death from that the wild animals killed far greater outweighs that the number of cows that are brought into existence.
So the evidence would consist of, just detailing all of the biome that has to be destroyed in order to bring about one animal, right?
Why do we care about how much biome? Okay, look, without the look, dude. So we need the population densities of the biome that's going to be destroyed to try to make an inference for this, because I don't care how much biome you're destroying if there's no individuals there. So what I want to know is, again, the same thing I've been asking. I don't know how many times I've been asking it now. I want to know what the evidence is for this claim that more are going to die for one over the other.
Okay, so I've been trying to suggest reasons why there would be a lot more. So the density might be comparatively lower, right? But
what's the evidence? Yeah, that's what we're trying to look. We're trying to figure that out. So what's the evidence that it is one way or another?
I don't have evidence for the relative density, right?
Okay, then why do you think that one is going to be worse than the other?
Because we would expect more total area to be destroyed.
So what?
The combination of the
that doesn't matter if the density that only matters that doesn't matter. That only matters if the density is there's a density individual differential such that one outweighs the other. Well, you pointing to the fact that more area will be destroyed, that doesn't get you to that conclusion at all.
Well, no, so an increase in area could compensate for
sure, it could compensate
a comparatively lower density.
The weather, sure it could, or it could not. I mean, whether it does or it doesn't, the way we get to that inference is through the population density.
Well, no, so the population, it would be a combination of the population density and the amount of area.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're going to just do it with the area, not the population density, I don't know how you're making the inference.
Well, I know I was willing to concede a relatively smaller population density in line with the article that you had sent.
Okay, and so do you think there's an argument for there being more wildlife animals replaced that outweigh the number of animals farmed?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, what's the argument?
Okay, so it would be severalfold, right? So first would be that if the reduction in demand for the production of, a cow, for instance, right? That would prevent that individual instance of the animal being slaughtered, right? But if we got rid of a unit density of the biome, right, then that would permanently reduce the potential of that area to repeatedly produce wild animal life. Okay, so that's one reason. We would expect that
biome could come back. It's not like
no. So it could come back. We'd expect the effect to be more permanent.
Okay, and
chopping down a biome.
Wait. You think we don't destroy biomes just to bring one cow into existence. That's not how that works. Like there needs to be like a demand such that there's like a need for like a whole area to be cleared out or whatnot. That's not
right. But for each individual cow, we're cumulatively contributing to the destruction of the biome, right? Mm-hmm. And so we could quantify that cumulative contribution as a amount of biome destroyed. We could just imagine it, and it would just be a very small amount.
Do you have that quantification?
Huh?
Do you have that quantification?
No, completely lacking in data on that front.
Okay, so like that's what I'm interested in, because I don't see how you're getting to the reasons without that. So unless you think you have like an a priori argument.
I'm all I've ever claimed is that I have some data to substantiate some to point towards the plausibility of some of the premises, and then I have some intuitive reasons why the benefit might outweigh. Okay, and so I was going to give you some of those intuitive reasons.
Okay, so wait. so I don't know how you're getting to saying that there are reasons for this being like look, here's the thing, like I don't know how you're being anything other than 50-50 on this. Like with what you've presented me so far. Like do you have a view of anything other than do you have a credence one way or the other?
I already told you I have a credence even in favor of your view, right? Because it seems
I don't
like
know how you have a credence in favor of my view with the data you have available.
Okay, so you realize, so I guess we could have a conversation about epistemology, but without being familiar with the underlying data, I could have reasons to expect the data to be one way or the other. And based off of my assessments of, the credibility of people who advocate various positions, based off of, just my sense of how it'll turn out based off of my past experience, so inductively when I've looked into similar issues, my guess is that your view will end up winning the day, right? But I'm saying there are some reasons, there are some countervailing intuitions that I possess that lead me to think that there might actually be a argument for the other side. And so that argument would be, and it would be, a case that I'm saying that I lack the data to support completely, but I'm presenting you the intuition that would motivate it. So one is
that if we're just going to intuition pump, it's not interesting. So like when you have, because I'm not interested in your intuition pump, and I don't know why anyone would be. So when you do have the data that you think supports your position, or the position you're arguing for,
do you have you have data going the other way?
Well, I already presented to you data for the mammals, and then if we apply data for mammals based on the principle of indifference for the other species, my net credence leans my way.
No. So you realize why the relative density would be completely insufficient to reach a view, right? Because of the other component of what I'm arguing, right?
What is the other component?
Well, so there's reasons why there's sort of qualitative differences in terms of the benefit produced versus the harm produced. So one qualitative difference is that the biome will have a recurring effect, right? So the destruction of a biome will have a recurring effect across generations of animals, right?
I don't take it to be that. No, because I don't. It's the same thing. It's the same thing for the recurring effect is the same for the cows that are brought into existence as well. Like when we replace a biome with an area to farm cows, we do two things. We recurrently replace the biome, so that biome is replaced over a given amount of time, and over that amount of time that it's replaced, we recurrently breed more cattle. Like that's the way it's done. It's not like we have one cow; it just has this recurrent, like indefinite replacement of biome.
Well, so what would happen was if we have an increase in demand, right, such that we destroy a portion of biome, right, then that the demand itself will
there's a recurrent farming of cattle that happen on that replacement of biome. That's what happens once they've realized that demand and the farmer decides to change their practices, they're going to recurrently farm cattle on that biome.
No, so that's
take the biome and do nothing with it.
That's true in the case where the biome destruction is occurring in order to create more space for like grazing, for instance, right? But for the other forms of biome destruction, the amount of biome destruction would exceed the amount of land that was directly related to the production.
Sorry, I thought we're not talking about biome destruction for cattle.
No, we are. I'm just saying there's biome destruction that occurs that is not just increasing the amount of land available for grazing, for instance.
Oh, then that's going to be even worse. Are we talking about other species that are farmed?
No. We're just talking about cow, but we're saying the cow, the effect, right?
Yeah, I don't know what are you talking about? What kind of biome destruction are you saying?
So, for instance, the GHGs, right?
Yeah, GHGs can increase or decrease biome.
Right, and the argument would be that the expectation for an increase in carbon dioxide emissions would be a decrease in biodiversity globally.
What's the argument for that?
The consensus of scientists on the effects of global warming on biodiversity.
Present that consensus that it's going to in terms of biodiversity.
That warming causes biodiversity.
Like, wait. I don't care about I don't care about biodiversity. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, in terms of like the number of animals that are alive. Like, you can have a decrease in biodiversity and you can have an increase in biome in number of species. I mean, sorry, number of individuals.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's possible. So you could have a reduced number of species but an increased number of animals. That's what you're saying? Yeah. So
right. Do you have an argument?
The argument would be for warming, reducing the total number.
Do you have an argument that increasing GHGs will decrease total number of animals in the wild?
I don't. So again, if you're going to ask me for data on it, I don't have it. I'm just saying intuitively.
Do you have a reason to believe that increasing GHGs will cause a decrease in total number of animals in the wild?
Do I have a reason to believe it? Yeah. So one example might be the like destruction of rainforests. So especially in biomes that are especially plentiful in terms of animals being replaced with biomes that have a lower relative density.
Wait. I know we're replacing rainforests, but that's not the question I asked. I said increase in GHGs causing an increase or versus a decrease in total number of animals.
Well, the effect would be an increase in, like global average temperature anomaly, right? And the point would be that would destroy rainforest, for instance. So I'm just saying the destruction of those.
Wait, what's the argument? What's the argument for this?
For global warming causing destruction of rainforests?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just link you on that one. 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's in DC one.
All right, let me see. We have a Guardian. Okay, so we already are linking to a Guardian article, which is not a peer. Okay, so now we have to try to find a peer-reviewed source from the Guardian article. Lovely. I'm sorry, is there, where is the study here? There is no study here. It's not even linking to a study. Did you just Google something and just
No, I mean, yes, of course I just Googled it. I was saying, I guess I'll just link you, right? Okay. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll look. So I'm like, I've seen.
So you, just so we're clear, you just Googled the first thing that you found, and you ended up picking a Guardian article that doesn't even cite a peer-reviewed paper.
Right. So okay. I mean, I didn't know.
All right, I'm out. All right. Yeah. Just someone else can talk to this guy. All right. Bye.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, of all the reasons to blow up the conversation, that feels like a fairly